Good evening. Hi, my name is Stephanie Mayuri. I'm the Executive Director of the Alliance for Early Childhood. We are a collaborative community organization that supports the healthy growth and development of children from birth to age 8. With over 60 member schools and organizations, we serve parents, families, and educators here on the North Shore of Chicago. Thank you so much for being here. We understand, and I personally understand, how difficult evenings can be with young children. I'm a mom to a toddler and an 8-month-old, and I know it can be wild. So thank you so much for taking time for yourself to grow and grow your own parenting. And so we're so excited to have you here. This year, the Alliance is adapting to what's going on in our community, and we're offering an entire series. We're calling it the Pandemic Parenting Tools and Tips. So tonight, we're excited to dive into discipline, and we hope to empower you to embrace it with patience. And we know that's tricky right now. We're in a pandemic, and we know the challenges of raising young children. They are great, and they're even greater now with everything that's going on in our country, in our world. All of our systems are being impacted all the way down to our smallest children. So we're here to support you. And I'm so excited to introduce to you one of our local experts here. Her name is Molly Pope. She's an infant and early childhood mental health consultant. She has over 15 years of serving early childhood children and elementary age students as a psychologist. She uses a neurodevelopmental and relationship-based approach to bring together a connective and supportive learning environment. She's an absolute gem. And we are so excited to have her be hosting all of our programs for our parents and our educators this year. I just want to acknowledge the gold sponsors of the Alliance that make our programs free and open to the public like we have tonight. New Trier Township, Winnetka Community Nursery School, FAN, the Wilmette Optimist Club, Gainsburg Law, Kenilworth United Fund, Winnetka Public Schools District 36, Winnetka Park District, and we are so excited to bring this program to you tonight. I'm going to hand it over to Molly, and she is going to inspire us all. Thank you so much, Molly.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. And let's see. Get it to the slideshow. All right, so here we are. Tonight is really all about discipline, and we're going to talk about patience, that thing that feels so elusive when you're in those hot moments with your kids. So we got 45 minutes. We're going to hit the highs, hit the lows, and hopefully you'll come away with something that is meaningful and you can put into use tomorrow. So just a little bit about me. Here's me. This is my backup band. No, that's my family. My husband, David, and my 2 kids. They're 13 and 10. You know, I was looking at this picture and I was like, you couldn't really tell what kind of music we would play. Maybe something emo, you know, the 13-year-olds really bringing the dark mood. The younger ones bringing like Partridge Family or something. But this was us surviving the pandemic this summer, trying to be outside as much as we could. And about me, Stephanie really gave a lovely introduction, but my experience, my training is as a school psychologist. I've worked in the area for the past 15 years with kids from ages 3 to 10. And that's really my sweet spot. That's really where I feel like I know the most about how those kids show up. So I'm an infant and early childhood mental health consultant. I support child cares and preschools with behavior and really use a relationship lens to figure out what's needed. And then my other role is as a parent coach. And families usually call me for coaching when they're feeling challenged and things aren't working as well as they used to. And we work together so that they can kind of get back on track and be parenting with confidence and ease and grace. And then also this year, I am co-teaching in person at Winnetka Public School Nursery in their 2-year-old classroom. So I have various roles this year, all of which I'm really passionate about. And tonight, the work that you're going to see, some of the strategies are informed by Dr. Becky Bailey's work, which is conscious discipline. And that really draws from neuroscience, attachment and learning theory, as well as developmental psychology. So we'll get started. All right, so take a look at these two trains and just think about discipline. When you think of discipline, which train really represents discipline? Often when people hear discipline, they think of consequences or punishment. But the word discipline, just to get our vocabulary on the same page, discipline means teaching, which children need a lot of. And that teaching can happen while the family train is rolling down the track on the left, or it can happen after a crash and burn. So the discipline that happens when we're still on track on the left sounds like, we're leaving in 5 minutes, so start wrapping up your game. You're sharing the expectation, you're giving them a heads up of what you expect to see so that the family can continue down the track. You might have been raised yourself by parents with consequences, which really are just punishments when we get down to it. So the parent would come in and shout, "What's going on in here? You know, what'd you do? Just go to your room." And consequences like that and punishments don't really work in the long term. As you saw from my family picture, I have a 13-year-old, so I feel like I'm the ghost of Christmas future coming back to tell you the punishments won't work forever. And maybe some of you are already finding this out with your young ones, that punishments really aren't effective. And especially you see that as your kids get more older, more verbal, and hormones. And that's really what we're in this game for, is to support our kids through the long haul. So we want two things as parents. We want typically to change behavior, and we want to know what to do and say when the train comes off the rails. So that's what we're going to work on tonight. That's the plan. We're going to learn how to change those behaviors that keep happening and how to respond when the train comes off the rails. A happy life in your home comes from being in positive connection with your kids. When our relationships are fed and watered, we get more cooperation, more train on the track. We'll be talking about strategies that teach your kids how to do the right thing and set you up more as a coach in those crash and burn moments rather than a referee. I know I'm like mixing metaphors. I'm throwing them all out at you. You guys are doing great. But we're going to be talking about discipline. And when we do, we need to address these three things. First, your mind. What you think about a certain behavior, what you think about respect and disrespect from kids, your role as a parent, what that is, your expectations of how children should behave, they all play out in your discipline. I strongly believe that changing your relationship and your interactions with your child starts with changing your parent mindset. So before any tip, any tool or strategy or intervention, that really has to come first. Once you address your mindset, you'll see things begin to change, and not necessarily your child's behavior. It's really that you change. So shifting your thinking isn't easy, but it can be done. The second thing on there is your words. The words that you use, how and when you communicate, and the tone of your voice all influence the effectiveness of your discipline. And then the last thing is your heart, your guiding compass. And part of that mindset change is believing in your heart that there are no bad kids, just kids asking for love in challenging ways. They are doing the best that they can with the skills that they have in this moment. In fact, we all are. That phrase has centered me many, many times. They're doing the best that they can with the skills that they have in that moment. Your heart is what lights you up when you connect with your child in a joyful, playful way. We know that love is both kind and strong, as well as soft and wise. And it's that strong, soft place that lets your child have all their emotions while you make clear boundaries so that no one gets hurt or things get broken. But when things do get broken, either lamps or feelings, you repair with empathy, humility, and really a growth mindset. So tonight our strategies are going to illustrate one of these ingredients. You'll see it in the corner of my slides. Maybe if I'm in the corner of your slides, you can scoot me over. And really it's these three things that make for effective discipline. So look, I made a meme. I figured it out. I didn't even have to ask my teenager. Wally World, right? Am I right? So in addition to addressing how our mind, our words, and our heart have a role in discipline with our children, we also just have to address the elephant in the room, which is it's a pandemic and we're all a little short on patience. So when I'm saying patience, I'm talking about the ability to slow down, the ability to relax, and the ability to be quiet, right? So if I have overwhelmed you with that, I just want you to breathe. You have got this. You don't need to give yourself a parenting makeover in a pandemic, but there is probably one place where you could extend a little more patience and compassion. One of those places probably could be yourself. And before we have patience with others, you need to have patience with yourself. Maybe you're feeling like you're coming to these lessons too late. The horse has left the barn, your kids are too old, or the dynamics are already too tricky and entrenched to try to change how you parent. I strongly believe that it's never too late to bring compassion and connection to your life and into your family's life. Maybe you feel too reactive these days. You're short with your kids, you're short with your partner, you're short with your coworkers. Or maybe you feel you just don't have this in you. And I get it. So we're going to walk through that tonight. You also might need to extend some patience and compassion with the process. We think if she's pulling hair now, it's only a few years before she's the mean girl on social media. I got to nip this in the bud. Or you think my parents would never have let me act this way. I'm just going to demand that they listen to me. Or you think something like, it doesn't work, and you just go, forget it. We're just going back to timeouts. That's it. And I'm here to tell you, you don't need to teach the lesson right now. You be patient with the process of teaching your kids lessons. You can walk away and come back and have an even better impact with your child. The last part where you could probably extend some patience, some compassion is your children. Extending some empathy and understanding that it is really, really hard to be a little person or a teenager. They are learning how to be in the world and how to be in their bodies. And no one learns on the first take. We want to provide a supportive space where they can learn and not fear about messing up. So with that, I'm going to go and just have us think about ourselves, because really this is where discipline begins. When you see this little girl, I want you just to think about when you feel like her, not when your child does, but when you feel like her. So right here, right now, just take a breath, relax your forehead, maybe soften your gaze, release your jaw, just let your whole body relax, unclench your stomach, and think about where in your body you feel it when you're about to lose it, when your blood pressure is cranking up. Maybe your stomach clenches, that's me. Or maybe you feel your jaw clench. Do you feel prickly heat in your neck and face? Does your heart start to race? Do you tighten your shoulders? Some people experience their field of vision really narrowing. Others want to cover their ears because they're so overwhelmed. And some people even tense and shake, right? So now I want you to think, what do you do to take care of yourself in those moments? What helps you? For me, I need to breathe and move. I breathe so my exhale is really long because I know that's going to help me take my second breath. And I breathe out so I can hear it. So it's kind of a full sensory experience for me. And I'm like, I'm doing it. I can hear myself. I'm doing it. I also tend to move, even if it's walking upstairs, walking across the room. I might open the back door, get some breaths of fresh air. And then internally, I have a really simple mantra that I say to myself. And if anyone's heard me talk before, you've heard me say this because it truly is what I say for the past 6 years. And it extends some loving kindness to myself and to the lovely person in my home who is yanking my chain. And it's this: you can handle this. That you is me, and that you is my child who's having a hard time right now. So it's important to be patient with yourself when you are triggered or reactive. You are experiencing a biochemical reaction. The chemicals have been released, they're flooding your body, and you just gotta wait that out. It's gonna take some minutes to get out of your system, and that's why movement helps. Emotion needs motion. If you are reactive, the goal is to see if you can get just 2 seconds to go by before you lose it. So I don't say this just in theory. I know I have a calm voice and I look like I know what I'm doing, but I am a yeller. And I have really worked to not be a yeller. I'm not totally solved. So sometimes it comes out. And my goal to myself is to just see if I can hold it for just a little longer and see if I can get past it without losing it. So if you are patient and you can stay with that feeling without blowing, start to see what you notice and what are you actually feeling. Are you annoyed? Are you disrespected? Are you tired? Overwhelmed and underappreciated? Those two go in hand. Are you anxious? You don't judge. You don't distance yourself from that, distract, medicate. Be present in that moment and just notice. And that's going to inform just what is getting you so upset. And you can then start to work with it once you see your patterns. I just want to explain why I have Superman on here. I was like, what do you do in that moment? I was like, you freeze and you breathe. And when you type freeze, breathe into the internets, it gives you Superman with frozen, with freeze breath. I thought it still kind of worked, still appropriate. So I want to give you one strategy. This is both a grounding strategy and it's a tapping strategy. For those of you that don't know tapping comes from EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. And it's a way to help reset your nervous system once it's gotten triggered and is in that hyper alert state, when you're in that fight or flight, when you flipped your lid. So go ahead and just do a little okay. And it's really, you're just gonna tap each finger on your thumb. You can press hard, you can do it quick. But this is something that's grounding. You could do it in a Zoom when you're feeling stressed, bored. You can do it with both hands, you can do it with one hand. If you're an expert at this right now already, you could add to it a mantra. So you could do breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. You could do peace begins with me. You could use my mantra, which is you can handle this. So that's just a good one to have just in your back pocket. It's just one more thing to kind of help you in those moments. And why is this so important? to talk about our own regulation, because kids pick up on our feelings. And I must discipline myself first before I can discipline my child. We can't give or teach our children what we don't have. So using our strategies to regain balance and being patient with ourselves and the process is the foundation to discipline. And I put the heart in the corner because we want to recover and get back into connection and back into relationship with our child, because that's where they learn, in relationship with us. So we talked about patience with ourselves, and here we shift to having patience with the process. You're going to get them to the goal, to learn the lesson eventually. This is part of that mindset shift. Good behavior, whatever that means for you in this moment, in that moment, it's like bike riding. No one learns to ride a bike on the first try. So why would we expect them to learn a behavior on the first swipe through? You're going to have to teach and reteach and remind and support every time. So to better understand what behavior we're even working on, what skill it is that they're building, we need to change the question. So rather than, I need to get her to something, it's, how can I help her be more successful with? And what are the skills that little kids, school-age kids, even teenagers are working on? Transitions, not getting something immediately and having to wait. Impulse control, playing independently, sticking with something when it's frustrating, not giving up. Their self-help skills, managing those big emotions, sharing mom with a sibling, settling your system down for bed. These are all skills, but you don't really see the missing skill, you just see the behavior. So it's switching our mindset to think, what do I want her to be able to do? What does he keep getting stuck on? What is that about? And that's where you want to do your teaching. So another way to think about having patience with the process is to introduce this idea of an oops or a do-over. Holding on to the idea that no one learns to ride a bike on the first go-round, and no one learns to manage their rage in the first go-round either. We accept that everybody has an oops. And it's a beautiful thing to introduce into your family. It can help explain why you swore at the dog. It works for impulsive behaviors that just slip out. So you need to introduce this idea and kind of present it to the fam. And that can be as easy as saying, here's what we're going to do when we do something that we know is wrong or that's against the rules. We're going to do an oops and a do-over. And then you practice or rehearse it, and that'll look different depending on how old your child is. But here is what it looks like. Here's kind of my example. Again, this is for those behaviors that just slip out, like they clock you with a shovel and it was kind of, things got a little too wild. Or this is the one I wrote down. It said, after being asked to come out of the bath, your 4-year-old splashes you in the face and you see her look wide. She could be remorseful and worried, or she could be about to kind of go up a spiral of not being very in control. And you just simply say, oops, let's have a do-over. Time to get out of the bath. Thank you. And then you just redirect. Now let's get you dried off nice and cozy, moving on out of the bathroom. There's no judgment, there's no discussion, and there's no intensity. You want to extinguish the behavior by depriving it of your attention, the same as you would just deprive a fire of oxygen. Your children will learn that do-overs are not the end of the world, nor are they a time to negotiate or be more naughty. And you guys can rehearse and play around with that. She'll also learn that you can respond to infractions without getting riled up. And now she'll know that what happens when she breaks a rule. It's hard to get in trouble every time, right? This is kind of like that free pass. We're not going to give this a lot of attention. We're going to move on. So let's move on to our next one here. Oh, well, I was going to say, I said I work in a preschool. We're still in early days, and I'm in a classroom with 2, not even yet 3-year-olds. I have gotten a lot of sand, wood chips, either thrown at me, dumped on my head, and this is what I do. I see in their face that they are looking to connect with me, that it's not so much naughtiness, they're just looking to connect, and they're kind of waiting to see how I respond. And so this is my response. Whoops. And we move on. We don't give that kind of behavior a lot of attention. So the other place I said we could extend some empathy and compassion is to our children. And one of the ways to do that is to engage them in the problem solving. And this is about, I'm just kind of gathering my thoughts here. We want to talk about patience with our children. There's a little heart in the corner there, right? Because these heart strategies are about solidifying your relationship and connection with your child. And this is going to get you guys on the same page when there's been some disrupt. We're going to engage them in problem solving. And this can either happen when the family train is still chugging along on the track in anticipation or preparation of something that's going to come. Or if you're doing it after the train has crashed and burned, fallen off the rails, then you are waiting, patience, waiting until people are calm and they're back in their problem-solving mindset. So you use the 2 phrases, I wonder and I notice. So with a real young one who you're trying to engage in some cleaning, I wonder where this goes. When you have someone on their Roblox game, and they're getting really frustrated, maybe to tears, or a block building fell over with a young one. What were you trying to do here? Tell me more. When there's a conflict, right? I notice you guys were arguing about that toy. I wonder if we need to have a rule about it. And you let them come up with the ideas, and you can put a kibosh on a really bad idea and be like, I'm not sure that would work. But you want to get their input and their engagement. So from problem solving with our children to listening to what we're asking them to do, how do we get them to listen? Often we focus on the negative. It's just the hair trigger thing that comes out of our mouth. Don't run, no screaming, don't throw. And your child hears run, scream, throw. This is true for children, but it's also true for us as adults. You know, if you and I walk into a party and I say, oh my God, don't look at the guy that's standing by the clock, you're going to be really fighting, turning and looking at the guy who's standing at the clock. So the goal here is to focus on what you do want. When we strive for a positive statement, we typically use please. Please feed the dog. Please stop playing in the puddle. But please is a request. And my child can just as politely respond and say, no, thank you. So instead of saying please, we're going to simply say it's time to. And if it's not time to, then it's important to. It's time to put on your shoes. It's time to go upstairs and brush your teeth, right? It's time to start your homework. It's important to really just lets us know what's the boundary, what's the rule in our family. It's important to pick up the books and you tag on the why so we don't step on them. It's important to wash our hands so we don't spread germs, right? And we use this voice, you can hear it in my voice right now. That's my assertive, all-knowing voice. There is no doubt of what's happening next. If this using that kind of strong tone is new to you, or if when it comes out of your mouth you feel like, ooh, I go too strong, or I sound rude, you just practice with things in your mirror that are inarguable. The sky is blue, the grass is green, it's time to put on your shoes. You just get that tone down, and that's where you go when you're making a request. Another thing that lots of us have in our back pocket, and I feel like it's just good to have a reminder, is when we're thinking about how do we get kids to cooperate and hold a boundary, we want to give livable choices or we want to appeal to the yes brain. So livable choices are the ones that you can live with. So you don't go off and offer something that you can't deliver on. And just to share, this is a resource that I follow on Instagram that I love. It's an educator whose account is called Curious Parenting. And she gives us some great examples here. You can wear your mittens or you can bring them in your backpack, but the mittens are coming with you, right? You can hop or walk to the car, but we're getting in the car. This third one is about the yes brain. So we can go to the park as soon as you're dressed. It's from a book from psychologists and parenting experts, Tina Payne Bryson and Dan Siegel. And it's really just another version of first, then. You can have a cookie as soon as you wash your hands. I just said to my 13-year-old, you can meet up with your friends as soon as you stack the dishwasher. Now, I will say, when I say that, I get a, oh, and I don't engage. These are not the droids you're looking for, right? You Jedi mind trick. You don't engage. You've stated what the expectation is. You let them follow through. Patience. Patience is key there. So this is one that I think parents can often almost withdraw from. Big behaviors. And big behaviors need boundaries. And this is often where we're like, I don't know what to say. I lose all my words. The thing that boundaries do is they, again, are another teaching tool that's happening in real time with your child. So boundaries are an opportunity to build trust with your child. If you have someone who says, go away, leave me alone, when they're really upset, with young children, but even with older children, we don't really want to leave someone alone with their big, big feelings. It can feel really isolating. It can make it feel really scary. And it can impound an idea that something is wrong with me. I am a bad child. So if you have someone who says, go away, you can say, I'm going to leave you alone and sit here quietly. Sometimes people don't like that, but it's really saying, I'm going to stay near, just keep you safe. You might have someone who really worries about getting in trouble, that they did something and then knowing that or thinking that they'll get in trouble, they kind of spiral out even worse. And so to be able to communicate with a boundary, you are not in trouble. I want to help you make a different choice next time. Boundaries communicate expectations too. So this is one I had to use in my house a lot. You can be angry, but I won't let you hurt me, or I won't let you hurt your brother, or break things. It's my job to keep it safe. As they get older, you're going to continue to have to set some expectations. You can be angry, but you cannot speak to me that way. That's not okay. Do you do that in the heat of the moment when someone's yelling that you are the worst mom ever and they wish they had a different mom? No. Your eyebrows might go up, without you being able to control it. And you just kind of try to let your eyebrows go down. And when people are calm and can hear your expectation, that's when you deliver it. The other thing about boundaries is your child doesn't have to feel happy about them. You're still going to set them. So here, I had so much fun with you today, and now it's time for bed. It's okay to feel sad. Would you like to turn off the light, or should I? You are empathetic. You understand, but you are still the adult and you're setting the boundary. The other thing that comes up that I think parents can feel like deer in the headlights, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do, is when there are these big feelings. And often it's the big feelings that's driving that big behavior. So when kids have flipped their lid, when they are a volcano of emotion, and not only are they feeling the emotion, they might start to get a little panicky that they are out of control. And that can drive the behavior or tantrum even more. It can make it last longer. It can make it go bigger. So being a container, holding space for their feelings is really important. And communicating that you can handle this. And what are you doing before and after you say, all of your feelings are welcome and okay. They're not too big for me to handle. You are breathing. You're reminding yourself you can handle this. And you're holding on to your composure. You're remembering your patience. If this happens right before you're supposed to go somewhere, you might be a little late. You're going to let that go. This isn't going to get solved in a quick minute, and that's okay. And that's another mindset shift. This is more important right now. I got to wait this out. You can say, it's hard to feel frustrated. I get that. And for some kids, they're like sick of themselves, like, oh, you can tell. And you can let them know sometimes it feels inconvenient or annoying. It'll pass. The other message that can be communicated when you're holding space for big feelings is there's nothing you could do that could make me love you less. I will always love you. And it's that kind of unconditional acceptance and love, even when I'm at my worst. And then the last part here is the power of yet. If you have more than one child, you often have an observer watching as either the younger person or the older person is having big feelings, is having a hard time, and really needs to work out something. And so explaining that she hasn't figured that out yet means that it's not that she's never going to figure it out, but that we're working on it. We are in process here. And I'm still going to hold you to the rule, even though she can't live up to that rule because she's 2 years younger than you. Often you need to speak for the baby, right? Well, she hasn't learned to say that yet. Or he hasn't mastered that yet. The other way that this is useful is when you are visiting family who might say, oh, is that the way you let him talk to you? Oh, interesting. Well, your father never would have allowed for that. You can say, we're aware and we're working on it. He's not there yet. Thank you. Next. So to have that in your language, I think can be really helpful, even for you to hear yourself say, this is part of the patience of parenting. We are not there yet. We are working on it. So here we go, friends. We really went through it. We talked about, oh, I'm getting a message, my internet's unstable. We talked about the 3 things that are really important to ground and drive your discipline with your children. So there's your mind. We talked about having patience with ourselves and being aware of our overwhelm. We talked about our calming strategies and what works for us, whether that's a mantra that we are attached to, or we do some grounding techniques. We talked about having patience with the process, that they will learn this eventually. And how can I help them be more successful with? And we're thinking about those skills. What are they learning? These are like bike riding skills. And we're going to have to teach those lessons over and over and celebrate and cheer them on until they get there. Then we talked about your words, focusing on what you want. It's time to, it's important to. Those are great phrases to bring into your home. And then that great graphic from Curious Parenting. We offered livable choices and we appeal to that yes brain. You lead with what they want. You can have a snack as soon as you put your bag away. And then you put in the request of what you expect of them. With our words, we talked about how to set boundaries, why boundaries are so important. They establish trust, they communicate expectations, and that your kid doesn't have to be happy with it. You still set the boundary. And we talked about those big feelings, that we can hold them so that the child doesn't have to panic that they're out of control. And we use our composure to share that and pass that on to our child so that they can regulate. And then the power of yet. What a great word that is. I will say I had a colleague and teacher at Hubbard Wood School who would say that, and I would hear it out of her little first grader's mouth. Well, I haven't learned that yet. And what an empowering statement to have in your arsenal when you are only 6 or 7. And then we talked about strategies that really are coming from your heart. That kids pick up on our feelings. And so we're working on ourselves. We're working on giving ourselves grace, noticing what we're feeling when we are triggered. And if we're a yeller, we're just trying to extend that reaction time just 2 seconds more so that we can really share calm with our kids and not be with them in our stress. We talked about the oops, the do-over. You are extinguishing that behavior just like a fire cutting off its oxygen, and you're moving on. And then we talked about engaging them in problem solving with those 2 phrases of I wonder and I notice. And those, again, great things to bring into your home to invite some togetherness and getting on the same page with your child so that they can contribute to how does this family function, what works for me, and mom really or dad really wants to listen to my voice and what I have to say about that. So I'm looking at our time. Here we are. We arrived. So I just want to thank you all. I do feel like I'm just talking into a box in my dining room, but I know you're out there. My email is there. My website is there. Please feel free to reach out. And again, thank you.
Thank you so much, Molly. I cannot thank you enough just from my own perspective as a parent. And to bring you to our community, your calm and inspiring energy and expertise is just so great. And that was so digestible in 45 minutes. So thank you for giving us strategies and moving us along during a time where this stuff is not easy. So thank you so much for that. I do want to share with everyone, Molly is coming back on December 3rd and February 18th to continue our pandemic parenting tools and tips series. And we have a lot of other programs and resources on the Alliance website. If you haven't visited, please check it out. We have a lot to offer our community, and we want to support you. That's our big goal for this year. Is we know that there's a lot going on, and we want to meet you where you're at. So thank you, Molly, for being here. And I do need to acknowledge one more gold sponsor that I accidentally missed on my list, and that's the Northwestern Center for Talent for Development. But thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for taking the time, and we will see you soon. Thank you so much.